let's say you bring a korban in a group. Two people want to bring shlamim or ola in partnership. I'll pay for half the ola, you pay for half. I'll pay for half the shlamim, you pay for half. And this, even on holidays, I have to bring an olas re'iyah, and you have to bring olas re'iyah. That means just showing up at the temple, you have to bring burnt offering, and I have to bring shalmi chagiga, and you have to bring shalmi chagiga. So we'll do it together. You know what? 5 people. It's a little bit expensive. What about chatas and asham? No, because I sinned. I have to bring a chatas for my sin. It's not like, oh, good. We ate chalev together, but in shkaga, so we'll bring one chatas to cover. No, that's not how it works. One chatas per person, unless it's a chatas. It's tzibur. The tzibur brings a chatas when the tzibur when on a moed, right? Chatas of tzibur is on a moed, not on Shabbos, but on a moed. And chatas happens if you have, let's say, the entire kahal do some sort of sin. Okay. And mivim. This is a ola shlamim, whether it's neder and nadava. Okay, neder and nadava. They took it upon themselves. Hey, let's bring a burnt offering to God. The 3 of us together, we'll pay for a lamb. Well, filu of yavo b'shutafut. It could even be a bird because a bird is quite cheap. That's the poor man's korban. So 5 poor men could contribute a pigeon dove, a turtle dove as a pigeon or dove, a turtle dove as a korban. It doesn't matter if it's men or women or slaves. In this case, slaves as opposed to men or women is always talking about what's called an Evet Kanani, a person born Gentile and enslaved to Jews, or the descendants thereof before emancipation. A Evet Ivri is always, all halachas is just a regular Jew. He just has to work. He's an indentured servant for a limited amount of time. And he also is mutter b'shifcha, as we saw. But other than that, he's a regular Jew. He's included in all these things. So they bring all the korbanos. Aval hagayim, the nations of the world. Ein mikabli mehem ela olot bilvad. At our temple, at least, we can only receive from them what? Burnt offerings. Okay. Elevation offerings, as article translated. Shneimar yaben neichar lo takriv lechem Elohechem. It says, from the hand of foreigners, do not bring the bread of thy God. Okay, and so referring to certain types of korbanos there. You can only bring a burnt offering from a goyim. Afilu ola sa'of mikabli megoy, but they could take a burnt offering that's a bird. Aval pi shehu oved avodah zarah. Even if this Gentile happens himself to be an idol worshiper, because not all Gentiles are necessarily idol worshippers. Not all of them are, let's say, Anglicans. You could have a Muslim so he wants to bring a burnt offering to God, so you accept it. And you don't say, well, this guy worships idols also. He's going to worship in the temple and bring sacrifice, and next thing you know, he's going to go back to the local Catholic church, or I don't know, whatever. What do they worship in the East? Mm-hmm. By the way, there's some even look at, as we saw, religion in India. They don't consider idolatrous. Yeah, we talked to Dr. Brill about this. I don't necessarily agree. I know that Rabbi Brand is very vehemently opposed, but Rabbi Dr. Brill has pointed out that significant halachic authorities, especially ones who decide things, public policy, have taken quite lenient views of many of the religious aspects of what goes on in India. And India is not a small place. Okay, so I do not know. I cannot comment on anything the Indians do. I haven't seen them. I haven't heard the service in English. I feel pretty confident about saying that I'm not comfortable with animism, because I showed you what I said. You could go listen to it. That really, like I said, but I'm not familiar with what's going on in the East, so I'll leave it to other people to dispute. Rabbi Brand who rely on, and so does those who have been there. Anyways, so we don't have the standard that we have to look into to see what the Gentile is actually doing at home. He brings a korban for the right reason, so we accept it. And we don't tell him beforehand, you have to give idolatry from henceforth. However, ein mikablin mehen shlamim. We do not receive from these Gentiles peace offerings. Lo menachot, no meal offerings. Lo chataot b'ashamot, or sin offerings, or guilt offerings. V'chein lot she'enan ba'ot b'neder nedava. If it's type of ola that cannot be voluntarily brought for whatever reason, let's say it's an ola that a person has to bring. That's an olas re'iyah, for example. The pilgrimage burnt offering that I just had mentioned that Jewish men have to bring. So a guy can't show up on Sukkot and say, I want this to be an olas re'iyah. It just has to be a stam ola. We've not received from the Gentiles. To go on olat yoledet v'chayotze ba. let's say a Gentile woman shows up. She says, "I gave birth, and I want to bring the burnt offering that a Jewish woman normally brings when she gives birth." What does a Jewish woman bring? She brings an ola and a chatos upon giving birth. Because this type of thing, this type of korban doesn't come. It's not a neder, a promise a person breaks to bring a korban, or volunteers. Remember, we said, what's a neder and dava? I promise to bring X type of korban, or I promise to bring that animal as a korban. Either way, the Gentiles can't bring such things. Goy she'evi shlamim. So let's say a goy does show up. He brings this nice, large bull. All right. He says he wants to make it a peace offering. He wants to eat some of the meat, or feed others, whatever it is. What we do, we take the bull from him, makrivino ton oloth, and we make them into burnt offerings. The whole bull gets burned. I guess the Kohanim take the skin. The goy's intention is, worship God, a pure, simple intention. Nadar shlamim. Let's say he takes upon himself. Nadar shlamim says, I take a nether. I'm going to bring a shlamim. Untanam liYisrael al menat sheith kaper b'hani Yisrael, and he gave it to a Jewish person. Said, "Here, this will be on your behalf. You'll get the kippur. In this case, the atonement. Wait, a Jew gets an atonement for being a shlamim?" And the answer is yes. Every single korban has a certain aspect of kippur to it, except for korban pesach. Okay, korban pesach. That's where Cook points this out. So the Jew, he gives it to a Jew and says, "Here, Yankel, you will bring this bull as a peace offering to your God, okay, on your own behalf."
And they're biblical Jewish.
Yeah, well, it is. So we should know laser is already in late. I'm sorry, in Yerushalmi times. The fact that people called Eliezer call themselves laser is already there, or lezer is already there in Yerushalmi, right?
But
not Yankel, okay, but laser's there, but not Yankel. Okay, fine. Things they develop. Yossi, or Yossi is already instead of Yosef from early Second Temple times, right? So there you go. There's some of that. There's other shortened forms, whatever that show up. Either way, so the guy's intention is to slum to the Jew on the Jew's behalf. So then the Jews can eat it like a shlamim, because it's given to the Jews to use as their Torah requires. If the Kohen was the recipient of the Gentiles' peace offering, so the Kohen can eat it like a peace offering, not just like a chatas. And of course, he gives certain pieces to the other Kohanim who are on duty. Let's see. Here's an important one. This is a distinction. You have a Jew who's majorly off the derech. He worships idols. He violates Shabbos, right? So there's an expression in Chazal that he's basically like an idolater, or he's basically like a guy. Now, of course, he doesn't. He's not de-Jewed. Any Jew is a really big sinner, can repent, and he's a full Jew again. Although maybe he disqualified himself. We saw that a Kohen worshipped idols. What are we going to do with him? So we can't bring him back to the temple to serve in the temple. And say a Kohen who killed someone, even though it wasn't a sin, so he's disqualified from Birkas Kohanim, but that's not a sin that he did. So a Jew is currently in a Meshumid, let's say, so we can't eat Korban Pesach. Then he does tshuva, so he doesn't get to eat Korban Pesach again. He repented. He worshipped idols. A Kohen worshipped idols cannot go back and serve in the temple. A Jew who was a well-known Meshumid, and now he's finally made tshuva. He's repented. Can he go back to eating Korban Pesach? You're familiar with the din? I don't know. I have to look this up. I forgot. I think I've seen something this or discussed. Because
I have to imagine. I have no reason.
Because it's explicit that a Jew who's currently a Meshubed cannot eat Korban Pesach.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll look that up. Let's make a note of this. We'll look this up. No blanket statements. Some Korban Pesach there if you look it up. Yisrael Shu Meshubed La'avodah Zarah O Michal Shabbos V'Hesya. So this Jew is basically he's gone really far. He's worshiping idols, or he's violating Sabbath publicly. A lot of Jews do this, by the way, unfortunately. We do not receive any sacrifice from him, period. Okay? The guy is a idol worshiper, and he shows up with a crucifix on his neck or some other idol, so we'll accept sacrifice from him. Jew does likewise. That's just worse. Where we have a similar din is, let's say, a Gentile who has an idol over here. Say there's an idol here. I want to claim the gold. This idol is worth something and its value of gold. But if I make it mine, now I have to destroy it. So I'll have the Gentile, before I acquire it, the Gentile would say, it's a garnished. He'll blemish the idol and say, it's nothing. So now I can acquire this piece of gold and melt it down and use the gold for my purposes, like it says King David did. But a Jew can't do that. A Jew who's worshiping idols can't tell me, this idol is nothing. He can't be mevatel avodah zarah. Doesn't have that power. Okay. This burnt offering that we would have accepted from a Gentile, we do not receive it from this renegade Jew. We think he's worse. It says, "Shneimar Adam ki yakriv mikem korban Hashem." A man, an Adam, ki yakriv mikem, who brings sacrifice from among you, mikem, from among you. Mipiash mu'alamdu mikem v'lo kulchem. See why I mentioned mikem. There's some of you who can bring sacrifice. Some Jews will receive sacrifice, but not all of you Jews. The renegade Jews don't count. They're the ones who are excluded from this. Everybody is accepted or invited. Let's say he's a meshumad. He's a well-known adulterer, even a murderer. Let's say he's a mobster. We will receive korbanot from him because we want him to repent. And we don't want the Machal Shabbos or the Avodah Zarah to repent. What's the difference? Why is there a difference? There's some pretty bad sins. Okay, let's put the 4 top sins here. Shvichus damim gilui rayos, Avodah Zarah are the top 3, and Shabbos is up like number 4. If there was a top 4, so it would be Chil Shabbos. So we said the Oved Avodah Zarah and the Machal Shabbos are just the worst. We can't take any korban from them. But the Megala Rayos and the murderer, they're not so bad. We'll take korbanos from them. Elsewhere, murder is considered like the top 1 sin. Here, we're putting Avodah Zarah and Chil Shabbos as the top 2. What's the difference? Yes, korbanos is an act of worship. It's the ultimate act of accepting God. And the Mechal Shabbos and the Oved Avodah Zarah are kofrim be'ikr. What is the whole point? The Shabbos is the Jew's covenant with God that separates him from the Gentile. His declaration that he believes in the God, creator of everything, and the way that he said so. So that's why violating Shabbos or not believing in Shabbos is like worshiping idols, basically. So it's a kfir in the whole idea of God in the Torah. Whereas people who even murder, let's say, they're very bad, but it might not be even a religious idea. Okay, they're just following the Yetzer Hara. They're aggressive. They take revenge. They have usual. I don't know. I don't have a Yetzer Hara to commit murder. I wonder what goes through people who commit murder's minds, like what were they thinking, whatever it is. But the people who what's the other thing? Murder and let's say gilui rayos. Everybody knows why people pursue that. They're human, and like thievery also. We can understand some Yetzer Haras are much more common. Everybody has them in just a little bit, and you can understand like the greed or just wanting more, jealousy. Those are normal human emotions. Okay, so I can understand this. Hayam mishumad la'avira. Let's say he's a mishumad to a particular avera. Pick your avera. He eats the usual example is eating nevelis and treifus, non-kosher food, or treif, what's called in Yiddish. It's well known. This guy is, Yankel who eats pork. And it's such a regular thing. We don't know if he's doing it lahachis or he has a teva for it. So now we can't receive korban from him that has to do with that avera. Well, like give an example. Ketzad. He eats forbidden fat. Kosher slaughter, but he makes sure to go to the butcher before he throws away the chalev, the part that you're not supposed to eat, and he'll take it. I want the chalev. I want the gidanosh. I want the dam. Another thing that they do crazy in England. They use blood as a delicacy in England. You know that? Yeah. Oh, you knew that. You're aware of that? Yeah, they call it black pudding or blood pudding, where apparently blood is full of like nutrients and all that. So instead, so they save the blood and they cook it. They cook it in a soup, or they cook it in like with some sort of stuffing or something. That's like all the bloodiness is in the potatoes or whatever it is. That's a very British thing to eat, by the way. Yeah. Remember what other things they have? Okay. No jokes about it. This is why he's eating chalev. V'shagag v'achal chalev. And he is he actually he's normally eating chalev, and one time he realizes maybe he had some hirhuri tshuva. Shagag v'achal chalev. He did it unwittingly once. He ate a steak, and someone told him, "Hey, dude, that's chalev." He says, "Oh man, if I had known, I wouldn't have eaten it this time. I didn't want to eat chalev. I didn't realize it was chalev. That's a shogeg, right?" Ve'evi chatas, so he brings a chatas for eating chalev. Ein mekablim otami menu. We don't say no. You don't get atonement for this one act of eating chalev bishkaga, because all day, every day, you're eating chalev on purpose. Just stop eating the chalev. And let's say or other things. Yeah, you could give other examples. There are other chiyuvei kares that a person would violate. A lot of arayos fall into this category. What?
How do we know that he's completed teshuvah and he wants to just stop eating chalev entirely?
So he taken upon himself. We see that he's done tshuva. He says, when he brings his chatas, he's like, I ate chalev unwittingly, shogeg.
Right.
Ask him, and what about your earlier times where he was mazid?
I see.
Ask him, mazid you weren't? If he goes and says, no, I really done tshuva, I even regret all the mazid times, and I will never do it again. So now that's a goal, like good. So the fact that we're receiving korban from him is what the Rambam says. We accept korban for this type of stuff because we want to encourage him. If his tshuva is even on the zadon, so then that's good. That's how most of us are in Yom Kippur, right? We confess our sins in Yom Kippur. I'm thinking about, I don't give sermons on Yom Kippur. I don't think it's proper. I'm sort of a hypocrite. We have the same type of sin that we do all the time. We say we're not going to get angry. We'll be nicer to the kids and to the wife. Okay, whatever it is. And then you think back, and as Yom Kippur is approaching, you realize, did I really hold myself to the standards I promised myself this year? I said I wouldn't fall into that usual avera. What's another one? Shmiras hayinayim. Okay, that's a very hard one, right? But that's one that's the most common for men. And just being in the street or whatever, you have access to things that said disconnect from the internet. So every year you read through Tefillah Zaka, and you're like, well, did I really live up to the same? Because you said it, right? And what else are you going to do on Yom Kippur? You're going to confess. So sometimes you say the long version of Vidui, and Tefillah Zaka is basically a form of Vidui. So you read these things and other ones, and you're like, do I really live up to those standards? And you're saying, oh, at least there's Yom Kippur again. So how many times God would say, like, can you imagine if God would tell you one Yom Kippur and say, the last 30 Yom Kippurs, you pleaded for me and you confessed, but you didn't hold up to what you said you were going to do. Why is this Yom Kippur going to be different? He says, yeah, because this time I'm really going to try. Yeah, so think about that. We pray that one day we could actually look back and say, yeah, we held ourselves, we took it upon ourselves to do something. It's very easy to take upon ourselves to, let's say, do something positive, like, you know what, I'm going to spend some time in the base matter every single day or a certain amount of hours a week. So that's a positive thing to do. Or I'm going to give, many people do, I'll give tzedakah. Here in Eretz Yisrael, they make it easy for you. They tell you to write a standing order. You guys have Israeli bank accounts? You know what a standing order is? Turns out that's what they call it. I never heard of it until I came to Israel. They call it Horak Keva because all over the place, everything you do has to have a Horak Keva. In America, it exists, but it's not demanded of you for anything. Paying tuition to schools or even tzedakahs, what do? They tell you Horak Keva means standing order. You tell your bank to take money from your account on a regular basis and give it to X. So the tzedakah fund, let's say the local soup kitchen. So you give them a Horak Keva. Means you sign a form telling your bank to deduct 60 shekels from your account every single month and give it to that soup kitchen. That's a standing order. So for many people, that's how they do their tzedakah. They sign an 18 shekel Horak Keva to this, and an 18 shekel Horak Keva to that. And thank God they have a portfolio of Horak Keva. A lot of people have that. And that's how they give their tzedakah. So doing positive, taking upon positive is something you could do. Taking upon to actually keep the Avera, actually not do the Averas, the Avera that you know that you're up to. Kaas and Gaiva. Averas of the Midos Averas, the most difficult Midas, and the ones that the Rambam says you have to have the most You have to be the most extreme away from those. You have to take the opposite approach. You cannot have any arrogance or haughtiness, as it says, or pride in biblical Hebrew is Gaon Yaakov, the pride of Jacob, the same shoresh, Gimel, Aleph, Vav, or Hey. So you're not supposed to have those. And how well are we succeeding with those? The Mashgiach tells you all the time, every year. Are we really improving ourselves? I don't know. A guy like you probably never get angry. You look like you never get angry. Okay. Some people in Mamish never get angry, and the rest of us, it's our, it's something we have to work on. And if you're not angry all the time, it's because you're staying away from your family. When people are away from their immediate family, and they save their anger. This is the funniest thing. Remember hearing Rabbi Weinberg talk about this. Rabbi Weinberger in H Kodesh mentioning, right, Kas. They save their Kas for when in their own house. They save it for their wives, their children, their siblings, their parents. That they'll show Kas too, and that's when they'll allow it to come out. Wow, it's some strangers around the house. Ever publicly. That's what most people have a problem with. So we have problems with these things basically. Okay. Yeah. Everybody has their issues. So we want to work on our issues. And God's not slamming the door. He's actually been quite good because I'm older than you. And yeah, it happens. The Yom Kippurs add up, and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I live up to this thing. It's very difficult. Thank God for Yom Kippur. Thank God. As you can remind us, you have many chances. What is it Rabbi Nachman said? Kol she'er dolek if Charlotte came. Kolzman she'er dolek. As long as the candle's burning, you could fix it. Right? You're still alive, you can still fix it. It's an amazing thing. Okay. Back to this. Olos hagoyim. What's the burnt offerings of the goyim? Ein miviin imahen nisachim. This is going to be actually kind of a dispute. What does it say here? The goyim don't bring nisachim. Right? That means what? What does nisachim count as? Three things in nisachim. Wine, flour with the oil, and frankincense also with the. Okay, so it's really four things. Nesachim includes minchas nesachim, a meal offering, and a meal offering has flour and oil and a little bit of spice to it. Shneimar kol ezrach yaseh kacha. All citizens shall do like this. Ezrach is usually referring to those who are Jews. Kol ezrach Yisrael yeshavu basukot. Nowadays, ezrach in modern Hebrew means dikduk. It means a citizen. Okay, the person who is ezrachut is one's citizenship. Sometimes it means ezrach as opposed to, let's say, a soldier means a civilian. Okay, sometimes it means citizens, sometimes it means civilians. In English, there's a difference between the words, which context it means. But in Hebrew, the word ezrach is used for both. Aval niskehem korban mishel tzibur. Their niskehem krevin mishel tzibur. The guy brings this big bull as a burnt offering. The guy is not supposed to bring wine and oil and flour and everything with it. Instead, the Jewish people provide it. They take for the temple fund. Shemar kacha ta'asula echad kimisparam. So shall do for one according to their numbers. So the bull needs nisachim, minchas nisachim, but the Gentiles not supposed to provide it. Ve'enon tunot smicha. Also, they don't have this act of leaning. We're going to talk a lot about leaning soon. What's the leaning? That's the part where the person bringing the korban leans his hands on the animal's head and confesses whatever it may be. Shein smicha el b'Yisrael. Only Jews perform this act. B'anashim lo b'anashim. And it's also only talk about men and not women. Now let's see some iyunim here. So if a guy were to bring wine, would it not be kosher anyways? Let's say the guy shows up with wine. Okay, the guy wants to bring the sachim. I would say if he shows up with a bottle of wine, here's the bowl, and here's the wine that's appropriate for it. Because I already instituted that if the wine had been used as a libation for an idol, then in Torah you're not allowed to use that wine. So we don't know. So what the sages say, whenever a Gentile handles the wine, and the wine hasn't been cooked, then that wine is not kosher. Correct? So they should be disqualified anyways if the guy brings it. Midrabana. And if you're going to say, well, it's cooked wine, it's mavushal, so the guy can't ruin it. The answer is the whole point of mavushal is that mavushal is disqualified for the mizbeach, and that's why you're not worried. Even decent Gentiles know that wine is inferior. Just like the Jews don't bring mavushal wine as sacrifice in their temple, so too decent Gentiles do not use mavushal wine as libations to their gods. Makes sense. That's the question. So maybe Chazal made no such gzeira against offering such wine, or this before the gzeira. By the way, Goyim don't bring Nesachim. That's how you read it. So I'm going to read you some opinions they have here. Going to Rabbeinu Gershom, Goy eno mivin Nesachim. Okay, Rabbeinu Gershom says this. That's one of the Balei Tosfos. They mentioned him. Rabbeinu Gershom, he came up with Malachims. He says Goyim don't bring Nesachim. Going to Rashi, Goy mivin Nesachim, Yachrim Ola Shelo, V'Rakim eno rotzel avi yakrivat Nesachav mikas tzibur. Rashi has the Goy could bring Nesachim somehow, but if he doesn't bring Nesachim, so the tzibur provides, the tzibur pays for it. The way we read the Rambam, people say that the Rambam seems to say that no, Goyim don't bring Nesachim. Not that that's an option like Rashi has. The Lechem Mishneh says that if the guy does bring Nesachim, we'll receive them somehow. If we could prove that he didn't touch it somehow. It's in a sealed bottle and it's double sealed or in the box or something. I don't know. He doesn't handle it. He has his Jewish servant bring the wine for him. I don't know. And others say, I think this is Makbili mentions this, that the guy just brings the money for the Nesachim, but not the actual Nesachim. So this is a little ambiguous. I think the Rambam most basically you read it. If I was just reading the Rambam, would say that Goyim don't bring the Nesachim, period, but the animal needs the Nesachim, so the seabor pays for it. And Goy doesn't bring money, and here's some money for Nesachim, but of course if a guy brings extra money, he could also donate to the temple. Goyim can donate money to the temple, right?
Goyim can donate money to the temple.
Not to the machatzitza shekel, but stomp to the temple Goyim can give. Right? Bedekabayas and other things. We also saw that. What do you do if you have no machatzitza shekel to pay for Korbanos Tibur? So you take from the general temple fund. And the temple has ways of getting money from Gentiles. You're not supposed to take tzedakah from Goyim also, by the way. That's another issue. We'll see sometime. A little bit more water. Yeah. It's very, very interesting. You imagine what it was like in temple times, how many Gentiles actually showed up to the Beis Hamikdash on different occasions and for what reasons. There was a chayil. There were Gentiles coming to the temple. And there was even a sign. I always forget, was the sign in Latin or Greek? Because they found the sign. I think it was Latin. Why do I think it's Latin? Because I've seen it before and I can understand. I saw the letters. I don't know Greek that well, and Greek letters don't look like Latin letters. Latin letters is basically capital English letters, without a curvy U, without a W, without a
J.
without a J and a Y.
Well, they can have a Y. They use a Y for Greek loanwords.
Oh yeah,
They use that K and Z.
I thought it was just mostly J's. Sorry, just I's, no J's. Just an I and no Y's, no J and Y.
If they write in Latin, then you're not going to see K, Y, or Z. But if they're using a Greek loanword, then they will use it.
But when, let's say, first century, are we doing that? Yeah. Okay.
To write K. Sorry, to write what?
They didn't have a K in the first century. You're saying? But they did.
They had a
used the
K,
C.
but they only used it for loanwords.
Okay. And a C was always a hard.
Yes.
Hard.
always.
Okay. Fine. Good. It's good to learn Latin because Latin obviously changed. So you have to say like Latin when.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
I'm talking about like Cicero's
The
Latin.
plaque they discovered on near the Temple Mount, which said this is the Chil, no Gentiles beyond this point, is obviously first century.
Does it have a name?
Does it have a name? I don't know. You can look it up. You can see a picture of it. It's in the museum. Well,
AD or BC.
the first century, not AD. I don't subscribe to that. CE.
You're counting from the same year.
Okay, I know, but I'm not going to say it. What am I? The church here? Anno Domini? Okay.
Use the Hebrew calendar if you really feel that way.
Okay, yeah, but then I have to start calculating.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, let's see here. It says, so things were different then. They had rules. They had to tell the goyim, so you can't do this, you can't do that, can't come to the Azara, have to stay beyond the Chil. Next, HaKorbonot she'akriv yachid bein chova bein neva somech alehem kishehin chayim. And now we mentioned smicha. Let's mention smicha. Was it any behema, by the way, whether it's a chova or a dava? Bain, it's talking about the yachid, by the way, not korban sibur. the Talmud shall be in Bar-Hayim, the afternoon lamb. There's no Kohen who does smicha on it, right?
Sorry, Rabbi, I
But-
found it. It's called Soreg. It's in
This
Greek.
the Ray, yeah.
It's in
It's
Greek. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hmm.
Let me see. It's in Greek. I was wrong. Oh yeah, look at that. It is Greek. Yes. So Greek was more spoken than Latin back then. It basically tells them no Jew, no going beyond this point, right?
Wouldn't they have built
That bottom line over there, that looks almost Latin-like because it uses Greek letters that are basically
Yeah.
identical. It says
The
not
couple-
tone, whatever it is. But that T is not pronounced like a T. That's not a T, right?
Which one?
No, yeah.
That last T it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that
That T is a T.
so that's like it's equivalent of a tat, and the zero with the line through it is basically a theta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I should study more Greek.
Uh,
Sort of embarrassing, you know.
The last word is thaumaton, which
Thaumaton, yeah.
means death.
Yeah.
Probably
Like
something
thanatos,
like on
the
penalty
penalty
of
of death. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let me see what else we could decipher from this.
If you
Oh,
want to
God.
carry it too.
Why are there no spaces between the words? I guess they didn't do that back in the day.
To save to save material. Yeah, it's true.
You see omegas in here and the rest of them, and deltas. Okay. What's this aronoi? Is that no, that's not it. This has nothing to do with it. Okay. Let's get back to the halacha. It says so. Yeah, what does smicha involve? Kvar biyarnu bilchos shkalim shekulin yaviu olos. Oh no, we're over here. Hey, so he leans on these animals while they're still alive. Chutz min b'chor v'maiser Pesach. He said it's going to be a refrain that a lot of halachas don't apply to the b'chor, the maiser, and the Pesach. They're all connected to each other. Shnemar v'samakidol rosh korbonot. It says in Vayikra, he shall lean his hand upon the head of his sacrifice. The drasha that the Gemara has there is that every korban gets this except for Pesach, Bechor, and Meiser. That's a drasha. Okay, it's not his korban. Korban Hashem. All these other ones are not necessarily korbano in the same way. A bird, you can't do smicha on a bird. Okay, the Gemara says anything can be lahamid, anything could be stood up, mu'amad. You can't stand up an asech. You can't stand up a bird. Okay, you can lean on the bird. All the funds that should go into the box, the kupa, the pushka for and the davos, that help people pay for their korban davos. All those davos eventually go as all these extra funds go as burnt offerings. They're offered in the temple. Person who owns those funds, contributed them, does not lean on that animal they're eventually going to be using as a burnt offering. We don't bring any sakim for such an animal. Instead, the community pays for it. Also, public funds pay for the mincha and the nesech there. And a Kohen brings such a thing. Remember, we said avodatah v'lo the rights to eat the korban and process the korban go to the kohanim who are on duty. Sometimes a Kohen can go to the temple and say, "This is my korban. Even though I'm not on duty, I'm going to put on my korban out and do the whole thing. I'm going to eat this korban. I'm going to get the skin and all that." And sometimes, no, the kohanim on duty can say, "Sorry, Mr. Kohen, today is not your day." So this is one of those examples that he can't invoke kohanic privilege and say, "Well, I'm the bialim here." No, it's your money. It's not your animal. So you don't lean on it, and you're not going to be eating any of the meat if it's, let's say, a chatos, right? Or you don't get the skin. Everybody could do smicha, and by everybody we mean free Jewish men, right? Like the founding fathers. They said, all men are created equal. Shot and all men are created equal was, free white Protestant men and owners of land. Or as I think someone said there was a parish written on there back in the day, like a Rashi written to these documents, and basically said that this was basically not saying that the founding fathers recognized other nationalities, let's say Native Americans and Africans and other and Catholics even as their equals, but rather they as free men in America and landowners were just as good as a British aristocracy. You, Mr. Nobleman and the Duke of this and Earl of that, are no better than me. That's what they're saying. They're saying that they're equals of people who have higher rank than them, not that people below them are their equals. Okay, so this is kind of funny. It says everybody can do somech except for the person who's a deaf mute, person who's basically crazy or not all there, a child, a slave, eviknani, a woman, suma and nakri. That means a blind person and a Gentile. So why you say it says only? Just say ein smicha bechereshot katan eved isha suma nakri, and we would have known that it would have been a Jewish man. This is the lashon chazal. Either way, it means any Jewish man in this situation, older than 13 years old, he brings a korban, so he gets to do smicha. Ve'ena shaliach somech. A shaliach can't bring your korban. You sent it with some other adult Jew, so he doesn't do smicha. Ela b'valim. There's no shliach, only the actual owners of the korban. Shneimar v'samach yado lo yad ishto v'lo yad avdo v'lo yad shlucho. He sent his wife to do it for him. She doesn't do smicha. He sent it with his Canaanite slave. The Canaanite slave doesn't do smicha. Not his shliach of his equal, his brother. No shliach. Chamisha shehevi zevach echad. Kulan sumchim alav zeh achar zeh. 5 men show up. They're bringing one korban together in tandem, like we mentioned the first halacha. 5 men bring one burnt offering, one sheep. So what happens? Each of them get to do smicha one after another. Take turns. This is telling you that you would have thought smicha, maybe just one does it on their behalf, or maybe they'll do it at the same time. Answer: they take turns. Okay, don't hurt the animal. Person dies, he left his korban, which is an ola or shlamim. Why I mention ola or shlamim? Because a person who dies had a chatas or an asham around. What happens to the chatas and asham of the person who died? I didn't get to bring it. The yarshim don't bring that korban. Chatas and asham of a person who died cannot be brought as a korban. Put it out the pasture, let it die.
Scary.
Why? Putting out, there's a few times in the halach we'll see the animals just put out the pasture, okay, or let it die, or sometimes they bring about its death. Either way, chatos shemesu balav, there's nothing you could do about it. You can't say that the heirs do it. But in this case, if a man left an ola shlamim, so yeah, the heirs will bring it. Hare your show mivio, his heir, let's say is his only son. He's the one who brings us a korban. The samechalav maybe nisachav, and the son in this case, or the yoresh, whoever it happens to be, will perform the act of smicha. How do you say smicha in English? Leaning, so to speak. We mentioned this last week. Moshe Rabbeinu did smicha on Yehoshua. That was his way of conferring his status upon him. So he did that on a person. What do you do what's the point of doing this to the animal? What are you doing? You're pointing the animal what? So you say zeh tacha zeh. It's like the idea of kaparos. Zeh tacha zeh zeh lifasi. Basically, like the Rambam points out, really that's what you're supposed to do with a korban. It should have been me having my blood spilled and my entrails burned on the mizbeach, and the animals take my place. Okay, so that's basically what it is. Godspeed, little animal, but I'm happy it's you and not me. Okay, so he says this. And he also brings in the sucking. The heir also brings the libations. So there's no smicha in korbanot tzibur except for 2. Also, you're a mishtaleach. What's that? The scapegoat, right? What happens with the scapegoat? The Kohen Gadol confesses all the sins of the people while resting his hands on the scapegoat, and then he sends it out to be thrown off the cliff, right? That's basically it. The par helem shlosha mina Sanhedrin sumchim alav. Par helem davar is when Sanhedrin makes a big mistake in psak, tells everybody they worship idols or something else. Everybody ate chalev al pi the Sanhedrin, or a whole shevet did. So now they send 3 representatives of the Kehillah to bring this korban, and they perform smicha on this animal. They confess on behalf of everybody.
One after the other.
Yeah. The Devar zeh halacha mipi Moshe Rabbeinu. This is halacha straight from Moses. Shein batzibur el shtei smichot. Of communal sacrifices, only 2 have an act of smicha upon them. It's kind of easier, I guess. It makes it easier. If every single korban, let's say, all the olos brought on a holiday, If you have Rosh Hashanah, which is on Shabbos, so you're going to have many olas that day, or one of the first day of Sukkot or Shavuos. By the way, Shavuos has the Musaf plus a lot of korbanos that are brought with Shtei Lechem, a lot of burnt offerings. Can you imagine if they had to do smicha on every one of those? So it would get a little bit complicated. They don't do it. Naim Kohen Gadol. Ein somchim el ba'azara. The act of smicha is only in the actual temple courtyard, the one that surrounds the temple edifice and the mizbeach. Not, let's say, in the women's courtyard or any of the other outer courtyards. Okay. Somach chutz la'azara chozer v'samech b'fnim. And if he had performed smicha outside the azara sometime, he thought right before walking through the Nicanor gate, he did this act of smicha. Too late. Got to do it again. Let's say the one who owns the korban is right outside the gate. The animal in the courtyard, he's just outside, leads its hands in. Remember, I think they have an example of women doing this. Okay, that's a valid smicha. As long as he's doing kol kolcho, he's really putting his weight into it. So only a tahor can be somech. Why is this important? Because a person, there's certain Torah that you could stay on the other side of the line. Remember, there's different gradations. So a person who has a certain type of tumah that keeps him out of the temple courtyard shouldn't do this. Or let's say you have, I think if you're bringing the tumah, you have any mark about that? Hold on 1 second. I think here. For whatever reason, okay. If the tameh did smicha, so he did it. Okay. By the way, does he contaminate the animal? A Jew has any form of tumah. Can he contaminate a living animal? The answer is no. Living animals cannot contract impurity. Period. Okay, that's just the rule. They can't get tumas mace. That only applies to humans. They don't have any other tumas as long as the animal's alive. You have a nevela, that is tumas nevela. Okay. Even a treifa doesn't have a tumah. It was shechted properly. Mm-hmm. And if you have steak, something once you have foodstuffs, meat, so meat can become contaminated with tumah, not contaminated by a person. But any animal, when it's alive, cannot become contaminated. We'll stop here for now, I guess. Wish you guys well. Someone's joining us. Pinto entered the room, but we're leaving. I just pray that we'll be able to put these halachas into practice, and wish everybody a good night and a good Shabbos. Be well.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.